라라라라라라라 날 좋아한다고. This is part of an iconic song from a Korean beverage advertisement. The song is known for its refreshing, pure, and bright vibe. In Korean, we call this 청량하다. These days, it's not only drinks that are 청량하다. K-pop boy groups with this fresh, youthful, approachable, and natural energy, such as NCT Wish, TWS and CORTIS, are attracting fans from all over the world. Their vibe is rather different from the more what we conventionally call masculine and powerful styles like MONSTA X, ATEEZ, and Stray Kids. So let's talk more about the trend of Cheongryanг boy groups with our K-pop expert Jeff Benjamin, who is now connected with us. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, everybody.
All right, Jeff. So some people in the K-pop industry say that we are in the golden era of refreshing style boy groups. I tried to explain that 청량하다 with as many adjectives as I could in English. But do you agree with that sentiment? And what do you think are the defining characteristics of boy groups that excel at the 청량 concept?
Yeah, I've actually been saying, probably also on this show, that this is a really great year for K-pop rookie boy groups, especially. To me, it started in January with JYP Entertainment's boy band Kickflip. I really love their debut. They were really bringing it to me, something that kind of started everything in this more refreshing, lighter style that I'm really enjoying from a lot of different boy groups. And I think that's what's really special about these refreshing and approachable concepts is almost how un-K-pop it is, in the sense that it's supposed to come off a little more relaxed, a little more casual, as if you're hanging out with your own friends, right? But it's kind of remarkable, right? Because they train so much and we know how hard they work. So it's almost that much harder to make it look that casual and natural and bubbly and fun. So it's kind of just this amazing thing, and I'm really enjoying what's happening so far.
Definitely. So as these groups with bright, youthful, high-teen energy are getting a lot of attention lately, which group would you say stands out to you the most this year, especially with the refreshing groups? And also personally, which groups are you keeping an eye out?
Yeah, so it really did start with Kickflip for me. I love their debut single, Great. And then their latest title track, My First Love Song, is really good. I think I just saw them win. They were nominated for Rookie of the Year in a couple different places, so really excited for them. Close Your Eyes is a really special group too, just for really great music they're bringing. I feel like they subverted a lot of different expectations of what maybe a K-pop rookie should sound like, but they have this very mature, thoughtful music, but have a very youthful look at the same time. A-Hope is another one I'm really enjoying. They were made from Universal League. They're really strong songs while being like these really lovable guys. And CORTIS, I think, is a really, really special group too, because and I think they're going to be very famous, because I almost think of them almost in this totally different category, just given how they've established themselves as these creators and musicians. They just won, I saw, Rookie of the Year at the Mama Awards just a couple days ago. So everyone's really starting strong. TWS, NCT Wish, a lot of huge and great names coming out right now.
I have to agree with you on that. And Jeff, the popularity of these idols with that 청량 style, maybe I should call them 청량돌s, is also very evident overseas. So how are you seeing the reactions from the global fans?
Yeah, so right away, have to bring up CORTIS's debut EP, Color Outside the Lines, debuted at number 15 on the Billboard 200. That's the second highest ever for a K-pop X debut album, and that's only behind Super M's debut, which of course is a supergroup made from established beloved idols, so take that as you will. And I think CORTIS especially, that we saw them, they were able to hit number 1 on Spotify Global's viral chart with their song Go. And just really, really kind of exciting reactions. People are getting really excited about them. I see a lot of love for Close Your Eyes' music. And then you're seeing really great opportunities for a lot of these groups. Kickflip performed at Lollapalooza this year in Chicago. Groups like TWS and NCT Wish were booked for different big US performances like KCON and SM Town USA. So not only are these groups kind of, making inroads and of course trying to establish their global fan base, but they're really being welcomed with open arms from fans. So I think everyone's really kind of open-minded and just excited to see what these new artists have to bring.
Definitely. We can definitely see these groups thrive on global stages. And also what's notable is that recently idols are, showing more of a candid or unfiltered sides of them in interviews or variety shows. How do you think this combination of authenticity and this refreshing energy, refreshing vibe kind of influencing their growth in the international music industry?
I really do think this is key. And I think it's going to be more important as we move forward, just in terms of thinking about K-pop and music on a global platform. I always thought a huge part of BTS's success, specifically in America, was their openness and their candidness to kind of address all things, even the difficult parts of what may come up. And I think overseas fans really appreciate and respect that. I know I certainly do. The difficult part, I think, is when you see this when you see this openness so cemented, right, in their worlds. It's so much part of their personalities. And then if something difficult or controversial does show up, and sometimes there isn't a proper way to handle this. And I think, these groups get at risk for shattering those images. So I think that's kind of almost the key thing, is not to really, fake being candid or fake, being down to earth, but really just show who you are and let these artists have the opportunity and the space to grow and share themselves in an honest way. And I think everyone will ultimately win in that case. I think the artists will be more comfortable. I think the fans will appreciate them and connect with them more as people. You just can't really commit to these certain kinds of images, and then, if something difficult happens, it kind of just rubs people the wrong way, I think. So you can't just be, down to earth when it's convenient.
I think that agencies are these days more open towards such, openness. And
Right.
speaking of which,
Well, agencies are definitely the major entertainment companies are very leaning towards into this refreshing idols concept, because obviously, as you've spoke, they're very successful. They're getting tons of love globally, so that's kind of what they're leaning towards. What kind of or how effective do you think kind of this strategy is in the global music market?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's a little still, to be determined. We'll have to see exactly what happens when it comes to K-pop. And I really do think, that honesty and genuineness is really special. But if there's a crack in it, that can become problematic. But, right now, we're definitely seeing how, as you mentioned prior, the strong groups like Stray Kids and ATEEZ really getting, multiple #1 albums in the US. But I personally see CORTIS as just a really strong example of a group owning their artistic identities, being really proud of that, and not being afraid to do things that are different or unorthodox to the scene. And they're getting really good results too. So I think this is going to be something we're definitely going to see in that global space for sure. More artists owning their identities and really going for it for something refreshing and new.
And now let's turn a little bit to not really girl groups, but to make that comparison. Currently, there are quite a lot of girl groups that are leading with strong, powerful concepts, while boy groups are gaining momentum with that refreshing and youthful style. So why do you think this conceptual distinction exists? And also, why are we seeing predominantly boy groups with that Cheongryan style?
Yeah, well, waves happen, right? This happens in music and in all types of ways. And I think it was, around 2022 this is when New Jeans and 50/50 came out. That was a really refreshing style, especially for these new female groups. And now things have shifted a little bit. And I think it's almost natural to kind of see this, right? You'll naturally kind of see these different waves happening. That's a reference, of course, to the K-wave. But we'll just see, what these groups are kind of trying to do in different ways. I think, of course, things are going to get boring if everyone just kind of tries recreating the same kind of groups over and over. And I think, the music industry, especially the K-pop scene, definitely always tends to recognize if one group is put out that feels too similar to another group. No one wants to just follow and just no one becomes a fan of a group simply because they feel like another version of a group they already love. We always want to see something fresh. We always want to see something new. So as the music industry always works, in cycles, in waves, I think it's now time for the boys to have a little more fun, be a little more refreshing in this way. And then, who knows, maybe, we'll see the girls come back in a more refreshing way, or maybe these boys are on their way to maturing to the more quote unquote masculine concepts and things like that. I think everything has its own cycle. And right now, though, the boys are really bringing it in a really exciting way.
I'm going to ask you about the future in just a moment, but before that, just looking at the music videos right now of all those refreshing style boy groups, I really have to say the visuals itself, that really shows how, refreshing this is. Most of the music videos seem to be happening at daylight, and there's a lot of light blue also in the clothings. So what do you think, like the visuals, or is it the voices or the tones? What do you think is the biggest factor in, defining this music, this kind of refreshing style boy group music?
I think it's all you said and, and above, because I think, it's almost kind of capturing this kind of time of youth, right? I think it's so wonderful when you can kind of play off different elements from childhood. Of course, we all, everyone has a childhood in different ways, whether you were the kind of kid who played sports on the field, or you went and played with your friends in the park, or whatever it might be, dance by yourself in your room, or dance with friends on stage. Everyone always kind of had these carefree, feeling refreshing moments of freedom. And I think this is almost something that the boy bands in particular are really, really good at capturing. Kind of brings you back to a less chaotic time, a less, maybe a more free time. And especially these days with just how difficult things can be, whether it comes to politics, or whether it comes to social media, or just how digitally, connected we all are. I think these boy groups really kind of bring us back to a time that feels, lighter and easier. And I think that's definitely brought into, thanks to how great the K-pop industry is at knowing how to work with the different elements, whether that's the music itself, whether that's the visuals. We see this groups with these bright colored hairs, or a lot of them are wearing bright denim, or like you said, filming their music videos during the days. I think all these things kind of bring that lightness and that cheer, and that thing we kind of need maybe right now in particular. And so I know I really appreciate it. I always love seeing something that feels good, lifts my spirit in that way. And I think a lot of these guys are doing it and kind of owning it in that way too.
Almost feels like summer, Jeff. But just briefly, I mean, you touched upon it already, but that these trends are, going in circles, in cycles, that is. But where do you see this current refreshing K-pop boy group trend go? Or maybe how long do you think it will last?
Yeah, well, I think my hope, I'll say, is that, that these artists, it continues that these artists get chances to shine, share more of themselves in a bit more of this candid way. And there isn't just such, rigid standards put on their personal lives or their personal identities, that we can all kind of feel a bit more of this freedom and this lightness we were talking about in the prior question. So I really do think if fans can acknowledge this, respect this, which I do think happens as a group gains more international fans, it will kind of lead to a more, hopefully, peaceful world in general. But, when it comes to the industry at large, personally, I always feel like SM Entertainment is a step ahead of the trends and kind of sets the new trends. To me, I feel like NCT Dream is kind of the blueprint for this style, but also I think Rise and NCT Wish really embodied this style early as well. And they're supposedly debuting a new boy band in 2026, so in the first half. So I'll be really watching those rookies. I got to see them at SM Town, USA. They really looked like they had something special to prove too. So I'm very much looking forward to those guys in particular, and maybe they'll set the trend for what we talk about next time.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jeff, for connecting with us today. And I think we are going to talk very soon again, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, guys. Stay warm.
You too.